You're watching CW Montana. This is the MTN 9 o'clock news.
And good evening. Thanks for joining us on this Tuesday. I'm Andrea Lutz. Ahead tonight, a federal judge says he wants more information before he will allow a former Miles City athletic trainer accused of sexually abusing dozens of boys to plead guilty to federal charges. We'll explain. Plus, the enrollment numbers are in for the University of Montana, and we'll tell you why leaders in Missoula are pleased with the results. But first tonight, you may not realize it, but Interstate 90, which runs across Montana from east to west, also acts as a major corridor for drug traffickers. And tonight we are bringing you an MTN investigation into Montana's meth epidemic, and it might surprise you is how these drugs are getting to Montana and where they're coming from. Drug traffickers from Mexican drug cartels use our intricate highway system as a drug superhighway, and our communities are falling victim. We go in depth tonight with how law enforcement are trying to keep up. Interstate 90, a lifeline for Montana. This artery pumps millions of dollars of commerce into our state. It keeps our economy open for business, but also leaves Montana exposed.
So we know that almost all methamphetamine comes from Mexico. Almost all of our heroin comes across the southern border from Mexico.
And directly from Mexican drug cartels. They use our intricate highway system to get it here, forcing law enforcement to pay attention in a way they never have before.
We can at the very least hurt them where it hurts the most. And that's by taking their product off the road, and that's by taking the criminal proceeds from the sale of that product off the road.
In 2017, the Montana legislature funded a criminal interdiction team, 6 full-time troopers with specialized training in narcotics who conduct high volumes of traffic stops looking for criminal activity. Drugs are transported in cars, on bus lines, even in our mail. So getting it here is easier than you might think. Meth is ordered up locally from a drug supplier in Mexico. It's driven through a border crossing into a southern state. Then it can usually go one of 2 ways, from Arizona to Salt Lake City or Denver and directly into Billings, or from California along the west coast through Seattle, along Interstate 90 into Montana, where the distribution often ends, heads farther east, or goes north to Canada. On a brisk fall day, Montana High Patrol Trooper Darvin Mees sets out on shift. His goal for the day is simple: keep Montanans safe. On this day, he's checking speeds on Interstate 90 from Laurel to Lockwood.
My responsibilities are those of any other trooper out here, being crashes, complaints, DUI, so forth.
And if he's lucky, he might even take drugs off the streets.
In addition, though, I have this tool that's used for drug interdiction.
Trooper Mees works with Sayar, a drug tracking canine.
3 dogs. You'll notice that she will really get fired up. And she'll probably start barking, and she'll probably get loud. She knows something's going to happen, and she may or may not get out of the car.
Trooper Mees and Sayar are often called upon weekly if an officer suspects drugs are in a car. This year they made over 60 drug seizures. Today, he's about to do one more. A mere 2 hours into his shift, Trooper Mees spots a car in Billings with a shattered windshield. He makes a traffic stop, and soon backup arrives.
Jumped out at all of us was that windshield when it went by us.
With only a glance in the windows, he sees drug paraphernalia scattered in the car. Because the occupants allowed Trooper Mees to search, this time Sayar wasn't needed.
There was Q-tips and cotton balls for filter, foil with burn marks, lots of foil, and brand new foil. And we end up with 3 addicts and a low-level dealer. I mean, and it's, you know, that was at what time in the afternoon?
However, like many Montana law enforcement officers, he's forced with a tough decision. The Yellowstone County Jail is full. Only violent offenders allowed, which means the drugs are seized and the occupants are free to go.
The next best thing is to get them a court date, get them in front of a judge at some point here in the near future, and hopefully that'll get them down the road to maybe drug court.
These drugs are likely from a Mexican cartel. They're next admitted into evidence to build a case. Scales, foil, scoops, 7 grams of methamphetamine.
Just so crystal white.
Even heroin.
Yeah, that's what they're calling it. Chocolate, yep.
Now, at least, it's off the streets. And along with using our interstates to bring drugs to Montana, we are also learning that traffickers are using creative ways to avert law enforcement as they bring it here in cars. Well, we're going to dive into part 2 of Montana's drug superhighway. That's tomorrow night right here on the MTN 9 o'clock news. A twist in a massive sex abuse case involving a former athletic trainer for Miles City. Today, a federal judge says he wants more information before allowing 78-year-old Jim Jensen to plead guilty to charges of coercion. Also in court today, the judge asked the prosecution to show that Jensen used the internet to coerce minors to engage in sexual activity. Court documents say Jensen used his position as the school's trainer to sexually molest teen boys during athletic exams decades ago. A federal judge said prosecutors didn't have proof in their filings that Jensen used the internet to directly contact minors, but rather that Jensen used the internet to research how to entice minors. There was no guilty plea entered today in court. Instead, the prosecution is given 1 more week to get more evidence. All right, so parents, listen up. There are a few cases of the mumps in 2 Bozeman public schools. This coming from the Gallatin Health Department. 3 children in the Bozeman area have recently been diagnosed, and now officials are identifying the most students with the most risk of getting mumps. After that happens, of course, infection control officials will implement a strategy to keep other students safe. And the Gallatin City County Health Department says mumps can be serious, so they do advocate for vaccinations for children. Another drop in enrollment at the University of Montana, but there is a silver lining. Enrollment officials say that more Montana students are opting to stay at Montana for a little bit longer. UM says there was a 2.9% drop in enrollment from fall to spring. But numbers also show an increase of 1.7% in students choosing to stay with UM compared to last year, just a little bit longer. And with that, UM will also likely see a higher than anticipated tuition revenue for the university. Last year, UM made it a point to focus on student success in and about the classroom. Students at the University of Montana engineered an idea to combat student hunger on campus, and after 6 months of planning, the UM food pantry is now open. The pantry was started by students, for students, and it's still in the early stages, but the pantry is quickly taking shape, and they are trying to fill in the gaps as much as they can. The UM food pantry is open on Tuesdays from 9 until 2 and Friday from 10 to 5. Day-to-day operations are run completely by volunteers, and the pantry could use some more volunteers, and it could use some more donations. Well, the trail for the One Big Sky district in Billings is being blazed today in Helena as developers and city leaders aim to get legislative support. In a vote of 7-3, Billings City Council approved the plan. The plan aims at changing the future of Billings with 4 main anchor districts, and now it's in the hands of Montana lawmakers. The plan calls for a large private investment to be matched with public money from the city's tax increment finance district. Billings Mayor Bill Cole says going forward with the priority is definitely the work of the state legislators.
If we don't get this tool, it'll be back to square 2. Not square 1, because we now have a great plan and great research and have engaged the community in a great conversation. But we have very few tools to incentivize developers.
Those with the Big Sky Economic Development and the developer headed to Helena late last night just after that vote was taking place, and they're there to speak with state leaders and lawmakers. They say they want to make sure that legislators understand how financing would help the economic growth of the whole state of Montana, not just for Billings. The yearly fee to register your car could be going up again. Supporters are in favor of a measure that's going through the Montana legislature right now. They say it's in an effort to support all of the state parks. The Senate endorsed the bill, which raises the fee from $6 to $9. Vehicle owners can opt out, of course, but 77% of Montanans do pay it, giving them year-round free access to all 55 state parks. Opponents say the fee is a little bit sneaky because of that opt-out element. And the increase would raise about $2 million additional dollars each year to enhance trails and parks facilities. Allegiant Airlines, announcing a brand new service in between Bozeman and Los Angeles. It's all going to start this June. The new seasonal flights will operate twice weekly on Wednesdays and Saturdays. And get this, fares are going to be as low as $59 each way. Airport Director Brian Springer says the airport is excited about this new flight. He says that Bozeman Airport always continues to expand.
Really, one of the things that we are looking at is trying to support the growth of the community, both inbound tourism as well as the business community and people that live here, to give them more options and more affordable options at times as well. So anytime we have new service, it gives us more options for everybody that has the opportunity to fly.
So if you do want some more information, all you have to do is log online, visit AllegiantAir.com. A Great Falls dentist and his dogs take home a first-place prize at Montana's Race to the Sky dog sled. That race ended very early this morning. Brent Bruggeman finished the 300-mile race hours after the second and third place teams. He crossed the finish line at around 6 a.m. But the excitement doesn't stop now. The Race to the Sky is a qualifier for the Iditarod, and Bruggeman says that he will be competing. Well, Rick Larson of Belt, he finished first in the 100-mile race. He also won the prize for Best Cared For Dog Team. Still to come on tonight's MTN 9 o'clock news, the skeleton crew of volunteers makes sure that Montanans can have a great ski experience. We're going to find out what they do. It's right ahead. And after the break, Bob McGuire says much of Montana can expect a lot of snow. Those full details when we come back.